Hi, I'm Anna and I'm here today to do my July wrap-up. I know it's already September, but August has been the craziest month and I couldn't find any time to film any kind of video, so I'm here today to talk about the books I read 2 months ago. To this wrap-up, I'm gonna start with the lowest ratings of the month and build up from that to the highest ratings. However, July wasn't a very good reading month for me. I read 6 books in total, 5 of which were graphic novels or comics, and only 1 novel. And apart from one exception, neither of them really stuck out or were particularly enjoyable to me. The first book I want to talk about today is called La vida es un tango y te piso bailando by Ramón Boldú. This is a Spanish comic that I don't think has been translated into English, and maybe that's for the better. But I'm gonna try and translate the title. That will be something like Life is a tango and I step on you while dancing. This book was given to me as a recommendation from my local librarian, which is a crazy character, but maybe I will talk about him on another occasion. I asked him for something light and funny to read and he gave me this book. And let me tell you, I didn't find any of the topics that dealt with funny. Like, most of it is about the author's family memories of the Spanish Civil War, which of course is in a light-hearted topic. And also even the snippets of the author's present-day life wasn't funny. Like, the way it was told wasn't funny, and some of the stuff he told wasn't like something to make fun of. Like, there's a part of the book where he's talking about his parents' relationship, and it turns out that his father was abusive to his mother, and he kind of like finds out in the hospital because his mother had like an accident or something, and the doctors are telling him like she has all the symptoms of a person who has been abused over and over the years, and he's like, oh, I thought she just enjoyed being treated as a slave by my father. Ha 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 ha. That's not funny. Anyway, so I didn't enjoy this book at all. I gave it 2 stars when I finished it, but I think it might just deserve 1 star. It wasn't enjoyable. I neither liked the story, the way it was told, how it was handled, and neither the drawing style was particularly my style. So yeah, 1 star book. Moving into the 2-star ratings, I'm gonna talk about one of the graphic novels that is winning all the prizes this year. And that is My Favorite Thing is Monsters by Emil Ferris. This book, I really wanted to read it, especially because the art style really appeals to me. It's drawn with ballpoint pens, so very original, and it looks very interesting. I'm gonna try and share some pictures. And I was very hype, very hype, and it didn't meet up my expectations. For one, I thought this book was gonna be about actual monsters, and it isn't about actual monsters. It's about like the monsters that inhabit like human beings, our inner monsters. So that was my first disappointment. I was expecting like real actual monsters. But leaving that aside, which shouldn't have to be something to like make it worse, the story just like, it tries to do so much, but it kind of like dilutes and loses the point. The main premise of the book is very simple. This little girl who's about 10 years old lives in a poor neighborhood, and suddenly her upstairs neighbor gets murdered. The murder is very mysterious, like door closed, window closed. So this little girl tries to take upon herself the investigation and become like a private detective, which is a cool premise. But then it just becomes ridiculous, because I was talking with a friend the other day, and she was telling me how I should read A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I hope I pronounced that right, and I didn't butcher it. Anyway, I was telling her that I actually own the book, but it's so thick, and I heard some mixed reviews about it that I kind of like scared of picking it up. And she was like, well, people say that this is like very blown up, like the topics and the way it's handled is like very intense and too much for one character. And then I started telling her about the plot of this book, and she was like, okay, A Little Life is nothing compared to that. Because this book includes cancer, race, social issues, homophobia, transphobia, like tribal fights, like between bands. There's Holocaust survivors, child prostitution, abuse, fratricide, murder, of course. Then there's like a satanic cult. It's just too much for a graphic novel. It just feels overdone. It feels like almost like price bait. Some specs. I couldn't, and I really love the way it was drawn, but I couldn't get into the story. So apart from my complaints with the plot, I will also say that the book, the way the text is disposed among the drawings, sometimes gets a little bit messy and hard to follow, especially because in most of the book there's more text than drawings, and sometimes instead of a comic or a graphic novel, it feels more like an illustrated story, like if the story was like a novella or something, and someone made drawings to go along it. So yeah, that's my review of my favorite thing is monsters. Next, I'm moving up into my 3-star ratings. The first book I wanna talk about is called Robert Moses, The Master Builder of New York, by Pierre Christine. Excuse my French. This book is about Robert Moses, which is not an architect and not an urbanist quite, but he's like a very influential man who made a great deal of what we know of New York today. He like put forward a lot of plans to reform the city and create the New York we know today. So it was a cute book, it was nicely drawn, and the topic was quite interesting. It was just very superficial, I feel. I mean, it's not like I was intending to go very in depth of like the politics behind it and stuff, but sometimes it just felt like too shallow. Like I would have liked to know more about what was going on like Robert Moses' head or the politics around the decisions he took. It was, however, a good book to read, and it was a nice graphic novel. So yeah, I liked it. 3 stars. Another 3-star graphic novel I read in July is called El Final de Todos los Agostos by Alfonso Casas. Well, this book is a Spanish comic, and I don't think it has been translated into English yet because it's very new, but the title will be something like The End of All Augusts. It was a very cute graphic novel, very short. The drawings were very, very cute. The story was super cute. It's like about the friendship between two guys, and there was some kind of like sexual tension when they reached teenagehood, but it was very melancholic, very summery. I really enjoyed it. However, it's just that like I wish it would have been a little bit more long maybe, or go more in depth into the actual relationship of the main characters, because it's such a tiny little thing that it could like get 4 stars because it's just a tiny cute little story. But I would recommend it if you have the chance because it's a very beautiful book and pretty beautiful and very cute. The next 3-star read is actually the only novel I read in July, and that is Rayuela by Julio Córtazar, which in English is titled Hopscotch. This novel took me the whole month to read, and it's not that thick, at least it doesn't look like it. Like it's about a little bit over 700 pages. But the thing with Rayuela and the thing that made it very difficult, I'm gonna keep calling Rayuela because hopscotch is very difficult for me to pronounce, so sorry about that, is that it can be read in many ways, and that's what makes it the book it is. This book is a Spanish language classic, and as that is taught in high school in literature. I actually studied about it. We've never read it, or at least maybe in Argentina, because the author Julio Córtazar is Argentinian. Maybe they read snippets of it, but here in Spain, I don't know anyone who did, but we studied it and we know about it. And ever since I knew about it, it caught my eye because what they tell you is this is an experimental novel that can be read in 2 different ways. In fact, it can be read in any order you want. And I actually, in my mind, I pictured something quite different from what that means. I thought that the story, like the book, holds 2 different stories depending on the order you read it, but that's not the case. So if you're picturing that, no. It's just that what Cortázar intended when he wrote this book is to make the passive traditional reader who picks a book and reads cover to cover in the order the author has established, turn it into an active reader who has to choose the story or the order the story is read. So in the beginning of the book they tell you, you can read this book cover to cover from chapter 1 to chapter 155, like a normal novel, or you can read it from chapter 1 to chapter 56 in normal order and finish there, and that's one way to read it, well, two ways. Or you can jump around, like you jump in the hopscotch in the Rayuela. And you should be able to do it in whatever order you want, but the author has established an order. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see, but there's like a table of the chapters and the order. So that's an interesting premise. However, that means that I read this book twice, back to back. I read it first on the chronological order till chapter 56, stop, and immediately after pick it up again and read it in the whole thing, like with the order the author gives at the beginning, which made this book, instead of like 700 pages, 1,200 pages long. I'm not sure I should have done that, so I wouldn't advise to do that if you ever decide to pick this book. I had some issues with this book, and I think I might do a review of it separately, because if not, this video will go forever, probably, because it's a very thick book, in the sense that there's so much that you can extract and tell people about it. I will say that it's not an easy read. It's not a pleasant read sometimes. So I wouldn't recommend picking up just for fans. Like, I mean, obviously I picked it for fun, and in the end I quite enjoy it in some respects. But if you don't have a special interest in this book, I wouldn't just pick it up. If, however, you're intrigued, interested by it, or you want to read it because you've heard about it, you have good things about it and stuff, just read it. Just don't do what I did. Don't read it twice back to back, because that's a bit too much. Like, I wouldn't recommend that experience to anyone. However, I think that despite its flaws, there's some stuff to enjoy of this book. I'm gonna be picking up Julio Córtazar short story collections in the future, because I really enjoy some of his narration, and I thought that he has a very imaginative mind, and he's very sassy sometimes, and he's very funny. So I think that his short story collections can be quite enjoyable. So yeah, this beast. Now I'm gonna talk about the last book I read in July. There wasn't any 5-star ratings in July, unfortunately, but this comic I really enjoy. It's called Presas Fáciles by Miguel Ancho Prada, and I think it's Spanish, because I couldn't find that it was translated in the edition I had, so I'm pretty sure it's Spanish. And it's a very depressing comic in its topic. It deals about a group of elderly people who were like cheated by the banks and lost all their savings, and the revenge they take. However, I was surprised, because despite the dreadful looking cover, the book is quite amusing, because it's more a detective story than a depressing one. Although the depressing elements are of course in it, and it makes you a little bit sad in the inside to read about these elder people who are based on real facts that happened during the economical crisis of 2008 in Spain. But it was very well managed. Like, turning back to the first book I talked about in this video, which was La vida es un tango y te piso bailando by Ramon Boldú, which is like heavy topics, try to do it like funnily but managed very poorly. This one takes a very heavy topic, very depressing one, and does it in a way that is not making fun of it, but makes it like entertaining to read and interesting, and still delivers its message of how horrible these bank frauds were and how it affected like the people who like fall into them. So I would really recommend this one. I don't think it has been translated into English, but it should be well, maybe not because people wouldn't know about these events, but it's worth reading. Like, it's really worth reading, and I think it was done very beautifully, and the drawings were very fitting to the topic. They were like kind of like very dark pencil, like black pencil drawings, very noir aesthetic. It was very good. So I haven't translated the title. It will be Easy Prey. That will be the title in English, I think, which means obviously it's because it talks about elderly people that have been cheated. So yeah, a great read, and my best read of the month, 4 stars. I really enjoy it. If you had a chance to get your hands on it, do it. I really recommend it. Yeah, well, those were all the books I had to talk about that I read in July. I hope to see you again in another video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you have a nice day. Bye!